First of all, we managed again to get a media issue happening at European Development Days, which in its thematic framework for this year, for instance, didn't provide really good entrance for this debate. But nevertheless, in this governance, democracy support field, we managed to get this discussion getting on. And we earned a lot of interest. Different people came in and we had full house in the lab session. That was good. The message to the EU, as one of the biggest supporters and donors for media support, is that they have to identify a specific role they can play without duplicating what others are doing, for instance member states, on a national basis. And what they have to do also is to get this added value ready that they can develop. So there is this global discussion about Post-MDG, which is not an EU-bound discussion, but EU is one of the strong input givers and stakeholders in this political process, and the EU should talk to UN and to the members of UN and make a claim for media development and make a known position of it, because they can be the link between the single member states and the overarching process. So they have to identify the added value that they can give as an organization to this discussion, and we have to push them and help them to identify this position and get these things done that nobody else on a lower level can do, but that needs to be done to widen up and to develop the vision of media development and also the doing of media development.
And this area of information infrastructure, I think, is going to become probably one of the keys for post-2015. When the process started in 2000, we could not have predicted where the media was going. I don't know where the media is going to be at after 2015. I don't even know where it's going to be tomorrow. I mean, you know, we talk about in our organization the, oh shit, we forgot Twitter problem, right? Well, you make your new website and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we forgot Twitter. What are we going to do now? And this thing always comes up in technological development. There's always going to be something new and bright and shiny that we forgot. No one could have predicted the rise of Facebook or of MySpace, for that matter, back in 2000. There were only a few people that were interested in this process of social networking, and this was something that totally exploded in the meantime. What happens next? I have no idea. And this is why I appreciate what Per Oosterlund was saying, in that we know that we're not going to know it, so we need to focus on our values, to focus on what will stay new, no matter what the environment.
So the Millennium Development Goal process, there was a UN high-level panel report on what should replace the current Millennium Development Goals, and one of the things that suggested is that free media and access to independent information and access to data should be part of a goal that should underpin the next phase of that of the post-2015 MDGs. I agree with that. In some ways, it's very odd if that didn't happen, given just how connected everyone is now and how information and communication is so central to development. I think it's key that it does need to be part of that post-MDG process. The question is how, and the question is what form will it take, and who will ensure that actually these issues are effectively and properly reflected in the post-MDG process. And there's a long way to go, I think, to make that a reality. Well, I think the first thing that needs to happen is that all those organizations who are interested in that whole arena, and that's not just media support organizations like us, it's also media freedom organizations, it's data transparency organizations, open government organizations, access to information organizations. There's a kind of much more conversation and much more connection made between them to take these issues forward collectively. I also think there's kind of quite an important issue about sort of how do we try and prevent this becoming not a big argument. I mean, I think these are political issues. So obviously different countries are going to have deep reservations about support to freedom of expression and freedom of the media being integrated into the core of a post-2015 development process. Are there ways in which we can talk about that and discuss that so that there is a level of consensus that can emerge for the development framework going forward, which respects the fact that there are fundamental values that do need to underpin development, but which also don't necessarily mean that we end up with lots of polarized positions when we come to be framing this issue in the future?
Well, for one thing, media wasn't included in the MDGs originally. It was included in the declaration, but it didn't make it through. And this has led, I think, to a number of mistakes in the process of trying to implement the MDGs on the ground. Because the media were not specifically involved in that process, the contributions that the organizations can make was sort of left aside, and the media organizations themselves were not considered partners in the MDGs. And I think that this partnership is really crucial, especially post-2015, where the organizations can start to get more involved in what's going on in their own countries, to start to ask the necessary questions of, why isn't my country developing like it should? Why don't I have the freedoms that I should? Why are the goals that we set out not being implemented? Those are all questions that traditional media can definitely play a part in. What I especially like about today's sessions was that they were also talking about broadening the definition to include people who are using social media or any kind of digital media. So the term that I like a lot is committing acts of journalism. People who commit acts of journalism should be subject to the same protections and support that people who are professional journalists doing it all on the daily. Those are also important to maintain and to keep part of the process.